Welcome to episode 46 of the WDW News Today podcast. I'm Tom Corliss. Eric Morton is in Dallas right now finding out who shot JR, I believe. But Nick LaCicero is here joining me while Eric is out. How's it going, Nick?
You asked me if anyone would understand the 30 for 30 reference, and you're referencing who shot JR. Like, come on, that's definitely older.
It's pretty timeless. I don't know
how timeless that is.
It's pretty timeless.
I think things fall out. I think things like that have fallen to the wayside more than you think.
Yeah?
Like, I feel, yeah.
I thought The Office brought like Dallas back because there's that episode where they play like a Dallas board game.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Dallas had a reboot for a while. There was the new series, which I liked for a little bit.
Did they shoot JR again?
No, I don't think so. No, they didn't jump the shark that far.
Yeah.
But we should probably talk about today's topic. We have limited time because, the recording circumstances were not what we wanted them to be this week. But here we are. We're making it happen.
We are.
But Nick and I are working on picking a permanent day to record these a little earlier in the week. So you guys might start, if you're a WIGS member, seeing those notifications on Thursdays that we're going live midday-ish or early evening. To do these. Of course, if you are a WIGS member, you do get to watch us record these live. You can join at patreon.com/WDWNT. It's a great way to support all this content. If you enjoy it, it really helps us out. And then also you get little things like shows, and you get a discount on Gertie's. And Gertie discounts are real important right now because these are gone. As you guys know, these are extinct.
Where'd it go?
Put it back now.
It's gone. Oh, sorry.
This is the prototype. This is the floppy neck prototype that we then improved upon. But they're gone. But for the holiday season, due to popular demand, we are introducing Santa Gertie, which is a limited edition of 1,000. They're on pre-order now. We have sold, as the time of recording this show, we have sold 350 of 1,000 in just a weekend. So my suggestion would be, I don't know that by the next time we come back on the podcast, we'll still have them. So if you really want one, if you want them as a Christmas gift for someone, now is the time to go order them at wdwnt.shop. Because I don't think we're going to have them for super long, knock on wood. I'd like to sell out, but I also hope everyone that wants one gets one. So
yeah,
go make it happen. And we're promising shipping for Christmas. So you will have it in hand for Christmas. And we do have international shipping too.
Nice.
So there you go.
Just picture this one with a little ornament hanging out.
It's actually going to be different.
Oh, it's going to be different.
It is. It's a different manufacturer.
Nice.
So due to you complained about the tag placement, which I also
did.
complained of mine.
Yeah.
So the tag, it's a new tag.
It was like
It'll
right
be in a better
here,
spot. Yeah.
And hung over her face.
It'll be in a better spot. They're actually doing stitching for the Carousel Products logo on the foot.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be nicer. She's going to be a little sturdier too. The neck and the legs will be sturdier. This one's been loved, right? This one's done a lot of promotional touring for WWNT. She's been through a lot, the prototype. But the one you get will be vastly improved, and then also have a very cute big red ornament and a Santa hat and some other cute little differences that you'll notice when you get it. And if you missed the first one, then you got to get one anyway.
Nice.
So there you go, Santa Gertie. Nick, the topic we chose for today is but there was another topic idea. Maybe we'll talk about that next show, which was like Disney video games, essentially.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah, we'll do that one. Let us know in the comments if you actually want that. We'd like to know if that's the thing people want. If you want to talk about Disney Infinity, maybe some of the park-related video games.
Yeah.
Over the years, I don't know. Did you play that Disneyland Connect game at all?
Yeah, I did.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
So we talk about a lot of stuff on that show.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. I actually a while ago, like this was like, I don't know, 10 years ago. I think when Epic Mickey 2 was coming out, I did like I used to do a segment on a radio station that I was working at. And I did like a Disney segment, and so I did a whole like history of Disney video games thing like at one point. So yeah, I have a lot of notes from the history of Disney video games.
Oh, that'd be great.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool history.
Of course, that segment begat our radio show.
Yeah.
Which then begat WW News Tonight, and
which begat this.
Which begat you sitting here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right.
But September 30th, yesterday, was the 5-year anniversary of one of I would say, the most important moments in the history of our company.
Yeah.
And I would say a fairly important day in the history of Disney Parks, it was not only the last day ever for Illumination, final performance of Illuminations, Reflections of Earth at EPCOT, but it also was Reflections of Forever, which was our event, celebrating that, which had a weird set of circumstances which led to the entire creative team behind Illuminations reuniting in the Yacht Club Convention Center to essentially do a full day of presentations about one nighttime show, covering every possible aspect of its existence. And the reason September 30th of 2019 was important is because that also was one day short of the 20th anniversary of the shows. So the show had a full 20-year run, which doesn't happen for a lot of nighttime shows. That is rarefied air, which is reserved for, let me check, Phantasmic and the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Yeah.
So those are the three that have run that long.
I mean, I was going to say for any shows or parades, right? I mean, none of that stuff.
Well, Hollywood Studios is the Bermuda Triangle of show development. Like, they just get lost. Let's not forget that we have Voyage of the Little Mermaid and Beauty and the two that still exist, Beauty and the Beast live on stage.
How long is Beauty and the Beast going on now?
91. So
wow,
33 years. In November, it'll be 33 years. Indy is even longer because Indy is technically not an opening day attraction, but that was August of 89.
Yeah.
So that's over 35 years of the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, which makes it the longest running stage show in theme park history.
Really? Okay.
It's not even close.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would assume not. So, yeah, I guess okay. I never thought of it as a stage show, but yeah, I get
nighttime shows.
Yeah.
It's stage. Electrical Parade and Phantasmic, but Illuminations has the distinction of being the longest running, specifically fireworks show.
Okay.
Of all time. There's nothing close. We could argue about Fantasy in the Sky, but they were different shows under the same name. So not really. But this Illuminations, in the history of Disney parks, in the history of themed entertainment, the longest running fireworks show of all time.
Now, you said a weird set of circumstances got everybody together. Okay, is that something you could talk about?
I will talk about what I feel comfortable talking about in those set of circumstances. Actually, no, because how it came together, we can talk about. There are things on the road between we're going to do the event and the event happens that I don't want to talk about because I'm in a much different place in my life and in my relationship with the Walt Disney Company, who, I will be totally frank with you. Everyone at the Walt Disney Company that we work with currently is wonderful and very nice, and we have a great professional relationship. And so what I don't want to do is tell stories about things from 5 years ago when it was different people and a different attitude and things were very tense. I don't need to go down that road.
Okay.
But to put things in perspective, the event is in the fall. It's September of 2019. The Country Bear thing was summer of 2019.
Okay.
So there are some things going on in the background while this event is being put together that made the event scary for a number of people and also for us. So anyway, but the circumstances that make the event happen, the first step is, funny enough, we just had Stage 89 earlier this year. There was another Stage 89 event, which was for the 30th anniversary of Studios, which was May
that was
of
fantastic.
2019. I believe just before, maybe a week or two before that event, Disney announced the end of Illuminations would be September 30th. So we knew the date. And so I think Jason and I looked at each other and went, we should do something. And so once that was announced and we could book it, what Jason called them and arranged was 2 dessert parties. So what you could do is you could call Disney Events and you could book a dessert party where you rent out a giant space and you have to hit a food and beverage minimum.
Yeah.
And then you have a space to watch, you and your friends can watch the show while you enjoy desserts and drinks and things of that sort.
Right.
So Jason, pretty much as soon as it was available, called them and booked 2 nights, September 30th and October 1st. September 30th being the last ever Illuminations, Reflections of Earth, and October 1st being the first performance of EPCOT Forever.
Right.
And so we had those booked. And so also booked for Stage 89, we had an individual who was a Disney legend by the name of Ron Logan.
Mm-hmm.
Ron was the head of entertainment for the parks for quite a while. Worked in that division a very long time. Tremendous, tremendous guy. And Ron did the event. He came to the event and presented about studios. Some deep cuts for my preference, which like Dick Tracy, Diamond Double Cross, a show that you should go look up because it is weird and wild and wacky and magnificent. And we talked about Aladdin's Royal Caravan Parade and things like that.
On the side note, I literally just watched Dick Tracy movie again, like a couple days ago, because my friend's kids had never seen it, and their parents put it on. It's like, you got to see this. It was so bad. Yeah. I mean, it was. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. My father was real big into it. I remember leading up to the movie, he bought anything. I was like, Dick Tracy. I think he has the leather jacket. He has the watch. Everything.
That doesn't surprise me.
Everything. He was so into that and the Rocketeer, man. That time period. Any of those live action movies that everyone thought were going to be the biggest things ever. Yeah. And then weren't. So Ron, and actually, funny thing, I didn't think about it. You can watch those presentations from that day.
Sure.
The first Stage 89, those right here on YouTube. So you can go watch Ron Logan present all about studios entertainment.
It's one of the better ones I've ever seen in person at one of our events. Like, I really enjoyed
really fun. It's fun because he was a character, and so there's a lot of stories that would not clear at a D23 event. That is true. Like about was it girls was the term or Dane?
Didn't
I don't
he
know
use
what term.
Even chicks or something like that?
Yeah, these were chicks,
he definitely.
Yeah. It maybe gets slightly sexist, but I don't think so. I understand. You watch and decide. You, the viewer, can decide. But the story's funny either way.
They are.
I won't spoil it. But go watch that. Ron was a great human being. We had him at several events. And Ron, that chain event of that day, or the chain reaction of that day with Ron begat a lot of future events and a lot of the relationships we've had with a lot of important people through the years. But that day, so what happened was after the presentation was over, at the end of the presentation day, I think I got on stage and announced our next event is Reflect. We had the logo, and it's Reflections of Forever, and it will celebrate the last day of Illuminations and the first performance of this show. And we didn't know we were going to have the creative team.
Right.
That's not assembled. At this point, it is going to be a fun event, which is based around the main event being you can buy reserved space to join. You can come stand with us and have special desserts and watch the last show. That was it. That's the selling point, right? So Ron at the end, like I'm saying goodbye to everybody. Ron pulls me aside, and he has his assistant, and he's like, "Oh, you're doing an Illuminations event," and I think he actually had been booked to do someone else's dessert party. I think another company was doing a dessert party, and Ron was booked for that, just him. Mm-hmm. But no, even though he was booked to do that other company's, he pulls out a physical Rolodex.
Oh yeah,
a physical Rolodex.
He had a lot of papers.
And he puts it on the banquet table, and he's like, "You know who you should talk to? Don Dorsey." And so the thing I've realized over the years is these guys, like they worked in this industry and they know who these people are, but generally when they talk to people either in the fandom or who they do events with or whatever, these people have no idea who these people are because these are not famous names.
Right.
Don Dorsey was not a famous name outside of a certain realm, although Don has a best-selling album. We won't get into that. That's not Disney related. So Don is famous in a different circle. But as a Disney fan, it's a name I was familiar with because I know that name is, Don is super instrumental in the later phases of the Main Street Electrical Parade and all the Epcot Lagoon shows. And I know who Don Dorsey is. And so I can't believe it. He's just pulling out, he's like, "Oh, here, take Don Dorsey's phone number." I'm
right.
like, "I've got Don Dorsey's cell phone number. Okay, I guess I'll call him."
Yep.
So I don't remember who called who first. Ron may have talked to him first. which is a cool thing you can do for people. That's because I think if I cold call people, it's always a little weird.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they're like, who are you? What are you doing? So what was easy about this Stage 89 this year was once the first few people I had coerced into doing the event and they understood what it was, then they did the cold calling. And so my conversations with people were like, yeah, so they're coming and we're doing this event and we're going to do presentations about all these things. Would you be interested?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. In this case, so Don called me, and so the original, I don't know how much of this I'm supposed to tell, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
No. Keep going, Tom.
Yeah.
Don't think about it.
So I believe they pitched to Disney, Ron and Don pitched to Disney that they wanted the Farewell of IllumiNations to be an event that they would have sold tickets to. And the premise of the event was to have a live orchestra on World Showcase Promenade.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Play the show in time to the show.
Wow.
Which is an idea they ripped off to a way worse extent with the Harmonious Live special on Disney Plus. Which it's good that it was made because then people can go back and see what a turd that was. Either way. It's good. It's good. Actually, it's the only good version of that show I've seen. If it was that ever Harmonious, yeah. If it had the live performance, that would be such a cool show.
That would be cool.
With the live performers, that would be worth seeing every night. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But the regular version was not. So Disney didn't want to do it, and then I think it became they just wanted to have a reunion dinner. That's all they wanted. They wanted a reunion dinner at the park, and then to have a viewing area where all of them who worked on the show, the creative people, the pyro, the technicians, all those people could watch the show together, the last one. And Disney, I think, said no to that as well. And so what ends up happening is they essentially were looking for funding to have a reunion dinner.
Oh, okay.
And here's me who's like, I really want to have an event where you guys appear.
Yeah.
And so is there a solution here? And so what they originally wanted was a percentage, a sizable percentage of what would have been the cost of their reunion dinner covered in return for the event. I didn't have to go back and have a meeting or anything. When I was on the phone with Don the first time, I said immediately, I was like, we'll just pay for the whole reunion dinner. Like, you don't have to go try to crowdfund the rest or ask the other people who made this show for money.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. Let me pay for it. Let the company, let WDW pay for it.
Sure.
And I think Don was very taken aback by that. And from that moment on, Don was all in.
Yeah.
Because he's like, well, these guys are very nice and they seem to really care.
Yeah, you made it happen.
Yeah. And so from that point on, so the next crazy thing that happens is, so Don starts contacting people. It's going to happen.
Sure.
So he coordinates all the people being there. So the next thing that happens is I go on a trip to Disneyland somewhere in the summer. I don't remember when this was in the summer. But I go to Disneyland, and I think I talked to Don a little bit about possibly like meeting in person and kind of going over the event a little bit. And so Don Dorsey messages me. I don't know if we had a call or it was a text or what it was. But we arranges, he picks me up from Disneyland and takes me to his house.
Crazy, right?
I go to Don Dorsey's house. And it's very cool. Like in the hallway, he has... So in Japan, obviously the train is a big part of everyday life.
Yeah.
And Disney's a big part of culture there. It's everyone goes to Tokyo Disney. So like Fantasy Springs this year, everyone knew that was happening. So if you went anywhere in that country and mentioned Fantasy Springs, people are like, oh, have you been? Oh, it's like a big thing if you had been to Fantasy Springs. People are like, you went in?
Yeah.
You impress people you would never think. Like I know friends who met with artists who lived far outside of Tokyo, and they mentioned to them that they went to Fantasy Springs. These are acclaimed artists. Right. And they're like, oh, you went to Fantasy Springs?
Yeah, it became a big deal.
Yeah, there's no stigma around Disney adults in Japan. Everyone's a Disney adult in Japan. So, when you go on the train, it's not uncommon to see an advertisement for some current Disney offering.
Okay.
What was cool was Don had the original Tokyo train advertisements for the electrical parade.
Okay. Did he
Tokyo
do? No, he wouldn't have done.
He worked on that.
He worked on. Oh, he worked on it. Okay.
Yeah. So Don is not one of the original creators of the Electrical Parade. That's Bob Yanni and Ron Miziker made that happen in 72. But what you know as the Main Street Electrical Parade, which happened in 77, Don is a big part of that musically and in other ways. But Don is essentially leading the charge. Bob Yanni is probably still leading the charge, actually. We have an interview with Don. I'm going to butcher this story. There is an interview on this channel with Don about 50 years of the Main Street Electrical Parade. Go watch that. But the cool thing is going into his house and he has that's the first thing that endeared me to Don was that he had the subway ad or the train ad for the Electrical Parade. I thought that was so cool.
Sure.
And we go into his studio and Don just starts opening computer files. And Don is the most organized person I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah.
He had everything ever.
That's
on
amazing.
So
much history
and folders
there.
And he's worked on a million things. So there was a moment of when he realizes that I'm like this big fanboy. There's a moment of like, what else do you want to see?
Are you just drooling over his shoulder?
And so the first thing I had to ask, I don't know if people remember this, but a couple years after Reflections of Earth debuted, there were internet rumors that they were going to replace it with something called Skydance. IllumiNations Skydance was the thing that was talking. It was like when everyone used to be on the WDW Magic forums, we all used to be there. At some point, we were all there. Kids, look up what a forum is.
So you saw a folder marked Skydance.
Katie, a forum is a... She knows what a forum is. So I asked, I was like, Don, I might have seen the folder name. You might be right. I don't know if I saw the folder name or if he... Because at some point he did ask, what else do you want to see?
How much time do we got?
So there was a replacement idea for IllumiNations called Skydance, and Don just showed me a bunch of files, and I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And then there was Tokyo. I told him how much I like Tokyo, and he opened a bunch of Tokyo stuff.
Sure.
But it was such a cool day. The cool part, if he had only shown me the stuff he was going to show at the event, which was insane.
Yeah.
Already, I'm lighting up. The first few files he opens just for stuff they're going to show at the event, if you go watch the video, which it's now available, I haven't gotten to this part yet, but you can go watch all these presentations now. Surprise. They're here on the channel now, or at least will be later today as of the day this is released. So one of the first things he showed me was the Earth globe. Not like a video someone shot from the shore of the Earth globe, the actual master file with the it unfurled flat,
right? I remember
so you
that.
could actually see what's happening,
yeah,
on the Earth globe. And we sat and watched it. I was like, "This is so cool." I was like, "People are gonna lose it at this. This is gonna be the coolest event."
That was really impressive to see all the panels spread out flat, that was really impressive to see all that happening and to see it in more detail, just to be able to watch the video.
There were a lot of gasps in the crowd because people are like, "Oh, that's what that is."
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Don admits in the presentation, right? Obviously they were, screen technology now, you could achieve anything, right?
That'd be so incredible.
If you're a younger member of the audience watching, you're probably thinking they wrapped a screen around a tiny globe. There's a sphere in Vegas now, that whole building, right?
Imagine that.
But in 1999, this had never been done. Yeah. Screen technology wasn't what it is now either, where it was easy to curve a screen in that fashion. Never mind cut it out in the shape of continents. This had never been done.
Yeah.
And they'll talk about that in the presentation. But mind-boggling things. But I go to his house. That day it's an unbelievable day. And it's funny, the couple of months after that, there's some fun interactions with Don. I ended up inviting him. Actually, it had to be the opening of Galaxy's Edge. It must have been that opening week because we brought Don to. We had the wristbands because we were staying in the hotel, which had the guaranteed access to Galaxy's Edge when it opened at Disneyland. And we took Don one day. So we took him to Galaxy's Edge that opening week. I think after you left, I think he essentially became. I think he became Nicholas Cicero because I think you were still on the hotel, but I just started taking other people after you went home.
Yeah,
it's who else wants to go see Galaxy's Edge? But so the summer progresses. There are things I will not talk about. that happened over the summer. And
maybe someday on the tell-all years from now.
Yeah, when I'm retired from this industry, that's never going to happen. Anyway, so the event obviously sells out very quickly. So whether you just wanted so we had more room at the dessert parties than we did, or no, it was the other way around.
Right.
We had more room at the presentation at the yacht club than we did at the dessert parties. The dessert parties sold out instantaneously.
Yeah.
The September 30th first, but very quickly, and then the October 1st one was gone not long after. And then we eventually sold out. We had a lot more seats in the Yacht Club Convention Center. But again, the idea was on that final day, they would all be there, and you would get to meet them, and they would present the whole story of the creation of the show, how it was executed on a nightly basis, all of those cool things.
Yeah.
You would get to see over the course of a day, and then go to the dessert party and watch the last show with them.
I mean, it's my favorite event that we've ever done. It easily. I mean, I know you have reasons maybe for other things to be more special, but just from what I love about Disney and how much I love that show, that was by far the greatest live event. I mean, Disney or not Disney. I mean, like, it was better than any D23 panel or anything like that I've been to, just because. Partly because of the emotion of it, too. Everybody...
It being on that day.
It being on that day, you could tell that the creators... You could tell how much they cared. You could tell how much they loved it. You could tell how much they
like
appreciated us appreciating it, too. Like, when you're an athlete, you get to be in a stadium every day and you have the fans cheering you. You don't get that as a creator of something like this. Like, you don't... And most of those people don't know your name. They know the show, right? It'd be like being a fan of a sports team and not knowing any of the players' names, and you just know the team. So, like, them being able to see our appreciation for it, and then how emotional it was, like, throughout different pieces. I mean, oh my goodness, I'm horrible with names, but the singer.
Oh, Kelly.
Yeah, when she sang, like, that was it. That was the high point. That was like the crescendo of everything. Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
So at the end we had
chills.
Kelly actually sang "We Go On" or "Promise" at the end live, which was nuts because you hear, you go to Epcot for 20 years of your life. Your Epcot day ended with that playing over a speaker.
Yeah.
And now here is the person who sang that 20 years later in person in front of you, singing it on the last day in front of the people who made the show.
Yeah.
And by the way, Gavin Greenaway, who is now a world famous movie music composer, is standing there. He was playing on the piano while she's singing. That's insane.
No, sorry, what movie?
Oh, we can look up his IMDb. I mean, he's
I didn't know that.
Resume. Yeah. You didn't know that?
He
stopped working on a movie to come to this. This was so important to him, and he's such a big deal that he could get away with.
Yeah. Well, that's all. Yeah, but I mean, just the fact that it was being performed live, the person who wrote the music. I mean,
so he was. You'll hear this in the presentations, but Hans Zimmer was supposed to do Reflections of Earth, and Michael Eisner was like big on that. He's like, "Oh, that'd be great. Let's do it."
Yeah.
Hans was not available. He was busy, and so he gave it to one of his. I don't know what the word is.
Not
understudy. His protege. One of his. These major composers usually have several proteges who work under them. If they're busy with something, the proteges do a bit of the work. Right. That's a thing. So his filmography, I'll read you a couple of, and let me look for the better ones here. So he actually has a couple credits before Illuminations, but he's like an additional arranger for things like Face Off, The Peacemaker, Ants, Prince of Egypt, The Thin Red Line. But then he starts to get bigger jobs after Reflections of Earth. Road El Dorado, Gladiator, Chicken Run. He was conductor on Gladiator. Chicken Run, Hannibal, Shrek, Pearl Harbor, Well, he's a conductor on those.
Yeah, but that's awesome.
Yeah, and a composer for Spirit, Stallion of Cimarron.
Nah.
He was conductor on The Ring 2, Madagascar, Batman Begins, Wallace and Gromit.
That's a wide variety of stuff, too.
The Bourne Ultimatum, a B movie. Iron Man. He was a conductor on Iron Man. The Dark Knight.
Wow.
Monsters vs. Alien, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Sherlock Holmes, How to Train Your Dragon.
It's a heck of a career.
Despicable Me, Inception, Megamind, Love and Other Drugs, Tron Legacy, conductor for Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Man.
Yeah.
I mean, every year he's got like 6 huge movies he did something for, right? Fast and Furious 6.
All right.
Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Oh, boy.
I think the music was good. Captain America Civil War.
Yeah.
It's good. Guardians Volume 2. Just...
That's awesome.
It's in... Oh, video games, Nick.
Oh, I'm sure. Like, with that
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
I know you like that game. And Marvel Spider-Man.
That's awesome.
The Insomniac one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it was kind of crazy to get him, but he was like, no, this is super important to me. I have to be there.
Yeah.
And so he was there.
That would have been a weird missing piece.
Yeah. But he also, he came the
so
furthest, right? He was in England.
Okay.
So he had to come from the UK.
Yeah.
For this event. You know, that's a nice little trip.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch these back because I remember specifically like him talking about he brought us through creating the score, which is just incredible to think about. And he took you inside his mind. He had his piano there and he was playing, he was like, well, it was like this and then it went like this and seriously, chills.
My favorite moment of the event is during that because he stops at one point worried that he's boring people.
Oh, right.
And he goes, is this interesting? He doesn't finish the sentence and the whole crowd goes, yeah! And then he's like, oh, okay, all right. I guess we'll keep talking
so weird
about this. No, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get to hear from a major, such a talented composer on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You know, they don't even really get to talk at, even at any sort of movie related events or things like that. You don't often really hear from composers about their process, right?
No.
Maybe on some behind the scenes documentary things on DVDs and stuff, but you don't get to hear that a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fans of this stuff like being taken behind the scenes to show the creation of. I mean, that's why we love, the behind the scenes of movies being created or TV shows, the behind the scenes documentaries and things like that. I just watched the one on The Sopranos, by the way. Weird side note. If you haven't watched that yet, it's really good.
Oh.
It's with, what's his name? David Chase?
Yeah.
Is that his name? Yeah. So it's kind of an interview with him, but it's like a history and behind the scenes of the making of The Sopranos. It's amazing. Those things are amazing to be able to pick some of these brain about these things. And the fact that we got to see all that on stage and live and like I said, to bring us through the process and stuff that they can't imagine is actually interesting to somebody else. And it's like, no, this is really fascinating. I mean, it's the biggest reason I ever got into being interested in the theme parks. It's not the going on the rides, it's the how and the why and the what behind the whole creation and operation of it all. So being able to see one of my favorite things that's ever been at a theme park, and now I'm getting to hear these people how did I create this?
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing. It was so great. So, I mean, how many hours, this is that was probably 5 or 6 hours,
It's
maybe?
over 4. It's
4?
somewhere north of 4. I didn't ask Billy for the runtime.
Yeah.
Because as we're recording, I think he's slapping it together currently.
It's a lot of content. It's good stuff. Yeah.
No, I mean it's fantastic. It's really special, and we knew someday the right time would come, and it felt right. Don and I were texting, and it just felt. I was like, is it time to release that? He said, I think so.
Yeah. And
so here we are, and now everyone will get to enjoy it, which is wonderful. Which is why we record these things, because to make sure that future generations know the work that went into these things. Because honestly, especially way back Disney wasn't very good at that, and nor did they think like they didn't know, right? They didn't know the whole world was going to care.
Yeah.
The nice thing now is we know that, and we have the ability, while these people are still here, to capture these stories and spend time with them. And similar to Stage 89 earlier this year, and some future stuff we're working on.
When are we releasing the videos from the final day of Harmonious? Because did we have all those panels? No, wait, well, we didn't. I don't think we had any panels that day.
Oh, all those people are still with the company. We can't talk to them.
But there were people like cheering, and like, yay!
People there are people that like Harmonious. There are people that were cheering because they like that show.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, yes, I get that, but I think they made a wise decision to move on from that. I mean,
we move on. We go on.
I mean, look, it's not like enough people like that, like Happily Ever After, for them to be like, oh, we should bring this back after taking it away. So
the thing is, it's so much easier to bring Happily back.
Well, it is
than Illuminations. There's so much more infrastructure, right? Like that was the problem. Is in a different world where they had kept everything and not demolished all the barges and everything. Like, something could have happened. Now it's a much more expensive proposition for someone to be like, hey, can we bring that show back? Well, it's going to cost this many hundreds of millions of dollars to do that now. And it's like, well, and again, they're so set on having IP in a show on that lagoon, and we're going to keep fighting to have IP on the lagoon, and before we eventually just ever come to the realization that maybe it doesn't work, that maybe like, you know, you've messed with a lot of EPCOT, right? They killed a lot of EPCOT on the way to Illuminations Reflections of Earth, but that was for a lot of people, it was the last straw. I remember a lot of people saying like, this is the actual end of EPCOT. And I know Tom Bricker wrote something where he said, look, I've heard how many times in my life now, like, this is the death of Epcot Center. You know, I think there are a lot of times, you know, people are like, oh, when Horizons closed, or oh, when Imagination closed, or oh, when this happened. The actual day Epcot died for me will be September 30th, 2019. See, it was still Epcot to that point. As much as there were bad things that had happened, it still was Epcot.
Died is strong. I mean,
no.
No, it was the end of an era and beginning of a new era.
No, now there's like this corpse that we keep like kicking. We're like, we opened a gray box you could sit in. Come on, do something. You still dead? Come on.
It's the death of the Epcot that you knew and loved. But it is. I'm not saying. I'm not defending that it's a better Epcot by any means. I'm just saying I think death is a bit strong. But that is a defining moment in a new era for sure. 100%.
I still think like the generations of Epcot that come before this current one, while some of them are not fully in line with what Epcot was, still felt like projects where people believed in what Epcot stood for, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like fully abandoning all of the core values, right? Before being like, okay, we're going to get rid of this show about mankind and put in an IP concert show. And then also we're going to build a pavilion in Future World that's about a culture that doesn't actually exist. Like we're going to make a parody pavilion, right? You know, like that's fundamentally different than we're going to put Ellen DeGeneres in the dinosaur ride, or we're going to add the Three Caballeros to the Mexico ride, or even then we're going to put Frozen in Norway, right? Like those didn't kill Epcot. Those are not the things that killed Epcot. The things that killed Epcot were when they're like, let's make fun of Epcot. Like, let's just make a pavilion that's like, oh, look, it's funny because this is what we do with real places and no one cares. So
I know this episode isn't about this topic, but I'm saying that like you're right that it's a different Epcot, but it's not. I don't think it's a death. I do think people still enjoy. I think people very much enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy. And so many people enjoy Journey of Water.
My point is not that it's a total waste of time.
Yeah.
That's not my point. My point is that I think there was a time in which the four parks had individual identities, and that time is gone now.
Well,
And
it is very gone.
Yeah, now the Epcot that exists now is indistinguishable from the front of the park could be indistinguishable from a Tomorrowland in any Magic Kingdom or Castle Park in the world, right?
Yeah.
The thing that keeps it special, I think, is still, the dining, right? The dining part of Epcot keeps it alive. But, I think all these things could have changed, and if Illumination sat in the lagoon, people would feel very differently than they do now about that park.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that was the thing that was the glue that through a rough period held the park together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it gave, like, it was part of the park's identity because it just was around for so long. You just expected it. It was a part of the nightly soundtrack of the park, and the park doesn't have that anymore. I mean, forget even the soundtrack of the park. I mean, that all changed too, right? So it is just a completely different park to walk through. But I mean, you're right. The same thing happened to studios and things like that. So I mean, I don't know if in the end, I still think they could create a very good theme park that people will enjoy. But like, I don't think it will. You're right. It's never going to go back to that identity of what it was founded as. And I think we have to be okay with that.
We don't have to be okay with it.
I mean, how much of a reversal can you get at this point, though?
Oh, I don't need it to reverse. I just don't need to be okay with it. I can just continue to not be okay with what that park is.
That's true.
I had an interesting moment this week where I went to the return of Burradika at Animal Kingdom. Okay. And it was a moment where I felt a bit of what I liked about that park came back.
Yeah.
It was a weird moment of being like, oh, yeah, this feels right. And this was a thing that they took away. And now this park feels more complete than it has in a little while. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's about to feel incomplete because they're going to close a whole section of it.
Yeah. Well, one thing you talked about on last week's podcast with Eric, you ranked the World Showcase pavilions.
Yeah.
And one of the factors that kept coming up again and again, especially at the beginning of the list, was they fundamentally changed a lot of pavilions after COVID, and a lot of them haven't fully recovered. Entertainment, things like that.
Yeah.
I think, that stuff really, I think, changes the identity of the park, because what are you doing at that point when you're not leaning into the cohesive theming that you have in the World Showcase? So then, yes, on top of that, later on, an IP-based concert, like you said, and I mean, that's a great way of describing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you really lost the identity there. Now, all right, so Illuminations, we're celebrating that.
Yeah.
Moving forward, I mean, do you like what's there now? Do you like Luminous? Do you
better than Harmonious?
It is, yeah.
It's fine. Like, I'm not oh man, I gotta go see this, but it's a good Band-Aid.
How long do you think it lasts?
When did it debut? Last year or December of 2 years?
Does
December
it make it a decade?
Was that December? No, it was December of last year.
Last year. Does it make it a decade?
No. 5 to 8.
Yeah.
I think 5 to 8 years.
Could you envision
some? Right, because they blew so much money on Harmonious that now it's like, well, here's the money we spent on the Band-Aid. The Band-Aid's got to get us at least to a point of amortization, right? It's got to pay for itself.
Could you envision any nighttime show at any park lasting as long as Illuminations again, or do they have a different mindset now where they want to probably change things out?
Phantasmical hold, but otherwise, no.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Although we do live in an age where the daytime parades limp to the finish line, right? Like Festival of Fantasy is coming up on 10, or is it already 10? I forget, but it's like that's
debuted
old,
with
man.
I thought that debuted like in the year of the 40th, or no? Did it debut after?
It was after. It was like
okay,
like with the end of the Fantasyland expansion, like tied into it a bit, kind of. So it's like a decade of that. And it's like, that's too long. I just went to Shanghai. They're still running the parade they had at opening. So it's 8 years of that thing. And it's like, it's probably time, guys. I remember when they used to not last that long. Tokyo is very strict about their 5-year thing.
Okay.
There's always 5 years and you move on.
That's what I was wondering. I think with entertainment like that, you kind of have to
Yeah.
kind of put a time limit on it and start thinking about something else.
Yeah. But Illuminations, they did, right? They talked about Skydance.
Right? Yeah.
They were going to do it.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, whatever. I don't know. Don, there's a story there. Maybe Don will get him to tell it someday. I don't remember enough of it for me to tell it right now.
I mean, I guess I have this, like, I'd love to know what people's general thoughts on this is, because I want to keep seeing something new.
Yeah.
However, the fact, like, I would never want to replace having all those years with that soundtrack in that park at night, and just, being able to not even just stand there and watch it, but just walk around and enjoy it. And that's the beauty. That was the beauty of that show.
When you nail something that well, when you achieve the goal that well, it should not be, the next project should not be the complete eradication of the thing. It should be the plussing, right? So the way they looked at that should have been, so there was some point during the 20-year run that they went to LED technology and all of that stuff got updated. Mm-hmm. But it might have been time at the 20-year mark to be like, okay, you know what we should do is it's time to rebuild the Earth globe. It's time to use modern technology. Maybe we could do a bigger one now. We could build a bigger one. The technology is there to do a bigger and better version of this show. And I know that's somewhat against Walt's like philosophy of moving forward. But at the same time, like when you have something that good, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, it's arguable that Walt Disney might have bulldozed Pirates of the Caribbean. Who knows? But there are all these things that are considered timeless. You just update them and you keep them relevant. And Illuminations, Reflections of Earth kind of felt like one of those things.
Yeah.
Where maybe you should just leave it lie, right? And they kind of knew, right? Because Epcot Forever, for its first run and its return run, that, that part with the Illumination music, you could just see people respond.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious if the Vegas Fair was around earlier, if they would have seen that technology and been like, we could upgrade to something like that here.
Yeah. I don't know. But either way, right now on our channel, you can watch the entirety of Reflections of Forever's day of presentations. And I highly suggest you carve out some time and do so. We really appreciate it. I think you'll have a wonderful time. Sit down with the family, make some popcorn.
Build some Legos.
What does it have to do with this?
Nothing.
Do you build Legos while you watch?
Oh, I build Legos while I watch TV all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make it a family event. It's a cool watch, and we hope you guys.
Actually, what you have to do, you have to go to Epcot and pick up some treats. I always used to like the caramel popcorn from Germany.
That's a fun idea.
So get some of that.
Go get like a couple things from different countries.
Yep.
Yeah.
Recreate maybe some of your favorite beverages.
Rice cream or school bread.
Yeah. Bring it home. Watch the videos. Love it.
And the other thing you have to do is look up on YouTube the pre-show music. Listen to that loop.
You got while you're getting ready. So for half an hour before you sit down to watch, play the music loop, light some torches around the house. And
kids, get your parents' permission before lighting torches.
Yeah, probably. And then as soon as you're about ready to watch, blow out the torches and sit down and.
The other cool thing in that day was Jim Cummings did the intro.
Oh yeah,
Winnie the Pooh,
that's
who
right.
also Jim also did the voiceover for Reflections of Earth.
Right.
Did a special intro, which that was amazing. That was
yeah.
insane. When Don was like, "I'm gonna message Jim Cummings about doing an intro for the," I was like, "Okay, cool." Sure. But anyway, apologies. This is short. But we'll get back to our regular length podcasts moving forward. But I just wanted to mark this special occasion and make sure you guys watch those videos. And but you said it's your favorite event we've done?
Oh yeah. Not even close. I mean, there was some great stuff we did. I mean, Stage 89 itself on the beach with the Adventurers Club cast.
Stage 89,
oh my goodness, that night was amazing.
We've done some insane things,
right?
Yeah. I could retire tomorrow, and the WDW resume is pretty good.
I mean, this past Stage 89 as far as guest power and
insane,
just the volume of stuff you threw at us. I mean, that was incredible. But no, Illumination stands alone. Yeah. Just because of the, like, you know me. I not as big of a studios fan as a lot of people are. I love the park, but it's not my thing like it is some people saying. Illuminations was my thing.
Yeah,
so
I get that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I liked the show. I was not a huge fan, and in the course of like Don walking me through it and watching the presentations and everything, I felt like I finally came to really love that show.
Yeah.
I'm sure for people like you, the last show is memorable because the last time you got to see this thing you loved forever.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I felt like it was the first time I really saw the show. Like I think I didn't appreciate it. And then after watching those presentations and knowing it was the last one and they were standing there with us, like it finally had all the meaning it should have had for me long before.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you real soon. Probably didn't sound good in the mic.
Probably not.